It begins high above the clouds, where silence is broken only by the roar of engines. A cartel jet, heavy with narcotics, cuts across the sky. But detection has already happened. Military radar screens glow with its signature, and interceptors are already in the air. The sky feels endless to the narco pilot, a vast open expanse where escape seems simple. But in reality, that same sky is filled with silent, unseen watchers, mapping every movement with such precision that the pilot has no idea he is already caught. By the time the jet descends, the outcome has already been decided. The US has filled the sky with invisible eyes. The backbone of this surveillance web is specialized aircraft like the Lockheed P-3 Orion, particularly its Airborne Early Warning and Control AEW&C variants. Though it looks like a standard turboprop patrol plane, its modifications transform it into a hunter of smugglers. With radar arrays that sweep vast areas, infrared sensors that detect heat signatures, and electronic systems that intercept communications, the P-3 operates as a ghost above the trafficker's world. It can shadow a suspect jet from hundreds of miles away, quietly mapping its course without ever appearing on the target's radar. For the narco pilot, flying blind to the threat, every minute in the air feels routine, while every detail of the flight is being logged: altitude, speed, heading, and fuel burn. What makes this capability so devastating for traffickers is its covert nature. Conventional radar systems trigger cockpit alerts, giving pilots a chance to react. US surveillance systems avoid this entirely. They use passive monitoring, picking up emissions from the jet's own equipment, analyzing radio chatter, and fusing that data with signals intelligence from satellites and ground stations. The narco jet is broadcasting its existence simply by operating. US systems exploit that without revealing themselves. Even when active radar is used, it's done at altitudes, distances, and frequencies carefully chosen to avoid tripping cockpit sensors. To the pilot, nothing seems unusual. The cartel jet's reliance on technology becomes its most exploitable vulnerability. The integration of signals intelligence, SIGINT, and human intelligence, HUMINTA, amplifies this advantage. Cartel pilots often think they are just another aircraft in a crowded sky. But US agencies cross-reference flight plans, satellite data, and informant reports to identify flights that don't add up. A jet departing a suspicious airfield in South America, flying with irregular paperwork, or deviating from standard routes can be tagged for monitoring. Once flagged, it becomes the focus of both electronic and physical surveillance. Pilots may switch transponders or attempt to mask their journey, but every signal they emit is cataloged. Informants on the ground may confirm cargo loading and takeoffs.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Together, these layers of intelligence build a complete picture of the narco jet's journey, all while the pilot believes he is invisible. The invisibility to the target is the critical advantage. If a pilot knows he is being tracked, he has options: evasive maneuvers, emergency landings, or dumping cargo. The US strategy is to deny those options. By staying hidden, surveillance aircraft allow the jet to continue its course, unaware, until interception teams are ready. The jet is not flying free. It is flying in a cage it cannot see. The US surveillance regime is a net of specialized tools. In addition to the P-3 Orion, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, can loiter for hours over suspected smuggling corridors. Satellites provide global coverage, spotting unusual flight patterns across oceans and jungles. FAA systems record every legitimate flight plan and beacon, making it easier to identify anomalies. Together, these tools create a surveillance grid so dense that the narco jet's belief in anonymity is an illusion. This tactical patience ensures maximum disruption. Authorities validate this strategy, noting that it avoids risky, high-speed chases, reducing danger to civilians while maximizing damage to traffickers. What emerges is a portrait of a surveillance regime so advanced that the cartel's proudest assets, jets worth $80 million, become liabilities, their every journey a potential ambush. When the pilot finally realizes the game is over, it's not in the air where he holds choices, but on the ground or at low altitude where escape is impossible. At that point, armed law enforcement or military aircraft are already waiting, and seizure teams are pre-positioned. The pilot's moment of realization is also his moment of capture. The emotional arc for traffickers is crushing. They believe they are flying undetected, with clear skies and open routes, until suddenly, military aircraft flank them, demanding they land. There was never a warning, never a chance to dump cargo or turn back. Everything they thought was secure was an illusion. The US surveillance systems do not chase. They watch. They do not alert. They record. They let cartel jets dig their own graves, flying calmly into traps they cannot perceive. The takedown is a psychological and tactical duel, where mid-air maneuvers decide a trafficker's fate. Interceptors use a playbook of maneuvers designed to box in the suspect pilot, leaving him no path forward except compliance. The approach starts with an interceptor sliding into position alongside the jet, matching speed and altitude so precisely that the message is unmistakable. The cartel pilot suddenly feels the sky shrink around him, as if invisible walls are closing in. Next comes the signal: wing waggling, flashing lights, or sharp repositioning in front of the suspect aircraft all communicate the same order. Follow me. To ignore is to escalate, and escalation carries risks traffickers know too well. A fighter jet nudging into lead position is not a suggestion. It is an unmistakable directive. The sight of military-grade metal directly ahead is a blunt reminder that the pilot's options are vanishing with every mile. Positioning maneuvers then assert dominance. Interceptors may fly slightly above and ahead, forcing turbulent wake into the narco-jet's path, or slide under wings to box the aircraft in. These moves are controlled, calculated to avoid collision, yet unmistakably coercive. The cartel pilot sees the trap form in real time. Forward blocked, sides limited, upward climb futile. Each maneuver chips away at his confidence, forcing him to weigh compliance against impossible odds. Radio communication sharpens the pressure with commands to divert course, descend, and prepare to land. For traffickers accustomed to radio silence, these words strike like hammer blows. The psychological squeeze is effective because the pilot's illusions of speed and altitude as shields collapse when surrounded by professionals who anticipate every move. Each failed attempt at defiance increases panic, and panic is what drives a suspect toward surrender. Compliance feels less like a choice than inevitability.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
These tactics are assertive but restrained, designed to compel without colliding and to dominate without destroying. The choreography in the sky is equal parts precision flying and psychological warfare, balancing firmness with restraint to achieve maximum control. For high-value flights, the stakes are magnified. The aircraft itself, often a repurposed corporate jet, carries prestige for cartel leaders. Losing it is more than financial. It is symbolic. Interceptions don't just seize drugs, they seize reputation, proving that even at 30,000 feet, cartel power can be cornered and crushed. Aviation experts emphasize that these standard intercept protocols are proven globally in both military and civilian enforcement. The tactics work consistently. For cartel pilots, refusal carries catastrophic consequences. A missed command can escalate to warning shots, and continued defiance risks destruction. The choice is stark: land and face arrest, or gamble against overwhelming force. Most choose survival. The very openness of the air becomes a cage, tightened by interceptors who leave no space to run. The emergency landing is not just the end of a flight, but the collapse of a strategy. The $80 million narco jet built for evasion ended up forced into shutdown by US systems that had been quietly watching and waiting. Cartel jets are investments meant to be stretched across dozens of runs. They use hidden airstrips in jungles and clandestine fueling points. Each of these choices buys the jet more time in the air before US systems inevitably detect, and intercept it. The US has built its interdiction strategy around patience. They don't always strike on the first flight. They let the jet run, quietly gathering intelligence on its routes, fueling points, and handlers. Each takeoff and landing leaves a digital trace, and over time, the system builds a net around the aircraft until interception is a guarantee. This is why the jet's lifespan isn't specified. Its lifetime was a span of months or years under the radar, accumulating suspicion until the net closed. Narco-jets are designed to outrun traditional interception by flying low to avoid radar, hopping between countries to complicate jurisdiction, and using false registrations. But US surveillance plays the long game. Over time, what looks like randomness is revealed as a pattern. The jet that once seemed untouchable becomes predictable, and predictability is fatal. For the cartel, every day the jet remains operational is a victory. For US forces, every day is another piece of data. Letting them fly means catching not just the jet, but the infrastructure behind it. Intercept too early, and you seize only a plane. Wait longer, and you seize an empire's artery. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime and the US State Department confirm that clandestine flights often run for extended periods before disruption. The longer a jet operates, the more data it leaves, the easier it becomes to track. What feels like triumph is actually a countdown. Each flight is not freedom, but another step toward detection. Longevity is not protection, it is exposure. The $80 million jet's downfall tells the real story. It operated long enough to attract notice, build intelligence, and give US systems the data they needed. The interception wasn't the end of one aircraft. It was the collapse of months or years of cartel logistics. The exact number of weeks or months it flew is less important than the certainty of the outcome. The US Air Force turns the sky into a trap. Every modified aircraft, no matter how carefully disguised, emits signals, heat, and patterns that betray it. The first layer of detection is signals intelligence, SIGINT. Cartel aircraft rely on radios, navigation aids, or radar emitters. To platforms like the RC-135 rivet joint, these emissions are not background noise, they are signatures. A pilot's attempt to communicate becomes the very act that gives him away. Beyond signals, the Air Force uses radar designed to pierce deception. While cartel aircraft fly low to avoid conventional radar, sophisticated airborne radars like those on the P-8 Poseidon were built to track submarines. Against a low-flying narco jet, their sensitivity is overwhelming. Then comes electro-optical and infrared surveillance, which sees what radar may miss. Cartel aircraft often show unusual heat signatures from extra fuel bladders or modified engines. A plane running dark at night may be invisible to the human eye, but to an ISR aircraft circling high above, it burns like a flare. Some of the most decisive surveillance comes from specialized reconnaissance platforms, like the U-2 spy plane. Flying at altitudes cartels can't reach, the U-2 photographs vast stretches of terrain and airspace in staggering detail. Clandestine airstrips in jungles or deserts are revealed in high-resolution imagery, and the heat patterns of recent landings are detectable. The power of these systems lies in their fusion. Signals intercepted by a rivet joint cross with radar traces from a Poseidon, which merge with infrared imagery, all fed into real-time data networks. Each sensor confirms the other, eliminating doubt. The more they attempt to hide, the more anomalies they create, and the easier they are to identify. Their supposed freedom in the air is transformed into a corridor of inevitability, where each mile flown is a breadcrumb leading to their capture. The takedown of the narco-jet was not luck. It was the product of deliberate investment in surveillance and the ability to hear what others think is hidden. The RC-135V does not need to see the plane when it can listen to the people who fly it. It does not need to intercept mid-air when it can map routes days in advance. In the high-stakes game between cartels and law enforcement, few images are more dramatic than a cartel aircraft ejecting its cargo mid-flight. To the outside observer, it looks reckless. But for pilots, it's a calculated move for survival. The most immediate reason is to dispose of evidence, If an aircraft is intercepted with drugs still inside, a conviction is nearly guaranteed, with crushing penalties. By dumping cargo, pilots scatter the evidence, complicating prosecution. For pilots, that trade is obvious. Cargo can be replaced, but freedom cannot. There is also the urgent need for speed and maneuverability. Smuggling aircraft are often overloaded to maximize profit, which makes them sluggish. By jettisoning cargo, pilots instantly lighten the aircraft, gaining precious speed. The pilot, as an asset, is more valuable than the cargo. A single skilled pilot can move tons of product across dozens of flights. One shipment lost is painful. Losing a skilled pilot and an aircraft is devastating. This calculation pushes pilots to abandon millions of dollars worth of drugs to preserve themselves for future runs. There's also a legal nuance to the tactic. Jurisdictions impose harsher penalties for trafficking above certain weight thresholds. A pilot intercepted with a near-empty hold may face a significantly reduced sentence. Even if jettisoned cargo is found, tying it conclusively to the intercepted plane is legally challenging. Law enforcement agencies are acutely aware of this tactic. Interceptors are trained to record mid-air dumps as evidence. Cartels exploit this legal gray zone, instructing pilots to discard cargo at the first sign of interception to weaken prosecutorial cases. This practice frustrates agencies, turning airtight captures into tenuous legal battles. From the cartel's perspective, mid-air dumping is standard operating procedure. The cartel absorbs the loss because it buys time, preserves pilots, and maintains operational rhythm. In the end, this defensive adaptation to overwhelming pressure is a way for cartels to transform a total loss into a partial one, a capture into a close call, and a guaranteed conviction into a contested case. It reflects a worldview where cargo is expendable, but pilots are not. A pilot faced with approaching jets knows instinctively what to do. Open the hatch, kick the bundles out, trade millions for survival. The drugs can be replaced. The pilot cannot. The U.S. surveillance systems do not chase, they watch. They do not alert, they record. They let cartel jets dig their own graves, flying calmly into traps they cannot perceive. The pilots believe in freedom until the moment they lose it. The cartels believe in invisibility until their most valuable assets are seized. The U.S. continues to refine the blend of radar, signals intelligence, human informants, and covert aircraft that make this possible. Every new technology tightens the net. Every successful interception is a message. You are seen, even when you think you are not. The ability to lock onto a narcotics jet without tipping off the pilot is not just a technical feat, it is a strategic weapon in itself, transforming skies that once felt limitless into monitored corridors of inevitability. For the US, this means dominance. For cartels, it means paranoia and loss. And for the pilots who gamble their lives on the belief that the sky will hide them, it means the same cold truth every time. You were already caught the moment you left the ground.